everywhere. Head first.
Little Patrick from BB. Dave with his walleye. Good job.
Hey everybody, it's Dave Kerr here with Western PA Anglers. I'm building a little project here. I've already built one, and I'm going to build one more for my boat. It is a rod holder for my my canoe. I already had rod holders that you've seen in previous videos to hold my stuff down, but they're kind of inefficient where they're sitting. They're sitting behind me, very difficult for me to reach for them. So what I wanted to do was get portable ones. And instead of buying them, I decided to just make them. I already had 3 rod holders available. So I figured I'd try and make some more. And this is the end result of one of them. All it is just a piece of 2x4 with some hyperlink 4-inch C-clamps. I got 2 of them there. Got a big carriage bolt to go through it. Most of these parts are all from the original setup, besides the wood and besides the clamps. And then we have the rod holders here. As you can see, like you can see, I've got the parts right here. I got small nuts and washers and bolts from the other setup. Big carriage bolt with this giant, I think it's a wing nut or something. We got the rod holders here, and a pair of Walmart's finest right here, some hyper tough 4-inch C-clamps. I grabbed these because they're very cheap. And then we got the piece of wood here that I'm just going to bolt it all to. Already pre-cut and pre-drilled and whatnot. So, I'm going to do just a quick video on how I did all this. I just want to say that I am not a carpenter and it's not all perfect. I just needed it to work. Didn't need it to be perfect. Didn't need it to look pretty. Just needed it to be functional. Now, one of the ways that I did this is right in front of the A right here where it says China. All I did was just put a black dot on both of these. This is to indicate where the big carriage bolt's going to go through. And in the back, more or less just in a random spot where you just need a small bolt to go through, or a small screw. So you can make sure that doesn't swing while it's all connected and whatnot. I didn't really measure anything. It's just doing it by eye. But when we look at this setup, right through the A is where this is. And I just put a small screw in here. That way, it doesn't move around. We have one here, and we have one there. And that way, we'll put it through this. What we'll do is I'll drill the hole, set it up next to this, then mark it on both sides, and try to drill it through as straight as possible. Okay, now when you're drilling through metal like this, or a lot of things to be honest, you always want to start off with a smaller bit. Right here I have I think it's 7/64. Yep. I'm starting off with a 7/64 drill bit, and I'm going to start both pilot holes on these C-clamps, and then I'm just going to gradually work my way up. You can't sit there and force these through. If you do, you're going to break these. I already did on one, as I know. But you start off with the smaller ones and just keep working your way up until I get to that thickness, which I forgot what it was, but I'll let you know here in a minute. And until you get to the desired thickness for the screws. And always remember, use a little bit of something like WD-40 or some sort of lubricant. That way, your bit goes through and you're not sitting there and just reaming on it. Also, you notice I have a piece of 2x4 down here. That way, when I go through, I'm not going into my table, concrete, whatever. And we'll just keep doing that until we get up to the size bolt that we need. Okay, now as you see, I've got my holes drilled here on both C-clamps. What I'm going to do is butt it up against this the correct way. Butt it up against my mount and try to make this as flush as possible. Like I said, this isn't to look perfect, it's just or look pretty, it's just to work. And all I'm going to do on both sides, when I do it like this, is try to make this, like I said, butt up like that, and then I'm going to fill in each hole. Try to make it flush up top here. Oh, sorry, down here, that's what I meant, yep. And then mark the holes on each side here. That way when I drill into it, when I remove this, I have spots that I can drill into. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. As you see, I have my mark here. Ignore that. I have my mark here, and I have my mark there. My hope, and it may not work, my hope is basically just to drill straight through. Carriage bolt goes straight through. And then I'll just put these ones in, these little holes right here. I'll just do those when I'm ready to drill into it. I'll just take a drill bit real quick, just kind of bore out the hole a little bit, and then I'm going to put my screws in, which I'm not going with real big ones. I tested them out. They hadn't had any problem. I think they're a ½ inch or something like that. And we'll see how that works out. In case you're wondering, this biggest drill bit is a 3/8, and I think it's just going to go all the way through this time. So I knew the other ones wouldn't. That's why I wasn't concerned with doing this last time, but now I think it's going to go all the way through. Gotta clean it up a little bit. There we go. We're all the way through. On to the next step. All I'm doing, putting that straight through. Just like that. Oh man, that works perfect. Now, we'll get this tightened up about hand tight. I need my 7/16 socket. What's wrong with that? I'll find it here in a second. Here, just use that for a moment. I just need to get hand tight at the moment. Now the reason, like I said, why I was doing the screws through here, I got that a little too tight. Gotta be able to move it still. It'll be able to flex around. So we're gonna put the screws through it. That way it'll stay nice and solid. And then we're gonna put the base on for the rod holder. Make sure you put it on the right way. If you have a rod holder set up like this, as you see, it just pops out. This is gonna go on the outside of the boat. This will be on the inside. I want this sitting right about like that. I want this sitting right about like that. That way when I put the base in right here, it'll go like this. Go like this, and then you turn it, and then it gets bolted down, and that way it doesn't come out. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, carry the bolt goes all the way through, and we're going to stick it through there. Make sure to have a washer on. At least I'm using the parts I already have, so washer that up. And I'm leaving this a little loose so I can make adjustments to it. I gotta still put my screws through it on the sides. That way, you know, as you can see here, it'll flex. And I'm afraid I get into a big fish and whatnot, I can definitely flex that right off. And then what we're gonna do is take this base right here, and we're gonna set it on right there. And I'm gonna use 4 bolts that I have right here and tighten it down. Make sure when you do this that you know what way this will clamp in there if you have one of these rod holders, because if it sits like this, and this is the front of my boat right here where this is facing out, and you want to adjust your rod, you can easily take it out like that and probably lose the whole setup. So make sure that you have that on that way, which, you know, you have to just, you know, see the way it is, and when you clip it in there, then you can adjust it whatever direction you want, and it's not going to come out. So you always want this to face that way. If you want to disconnect this or take it out, have it face the other way, so you can go free range of whatever direction you feel like. That way also when you're making like little adjustments on your a little angle here and whatnot, that you're not doing this by accident and knocking it out. These aren't very, this isn't cheap and whatnot. It's 17, 18 bucks and whatnot, but I mean, these get expensive if you keep losing them into the water, keep breaking them. So, we're going to get this all properly adjusted, and we'll be right back. Okay, what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to drill a small pilot hole into the wood. That way, when I put the screw through it, that I'm not sitting there splitting the wood up or tearing the wood up, but I'm not going to go real deep. Do that to both sides here. That didn't do much. Better. Now all I'm going to do, put that back on the edge so I got that piece sticking out. Take the screw, put it through. One side. There it is. you have it. It's basically just a really quick, cheap rod holder setup to make. Now I'm going to attach the other base to it and whatnot. And we got to tighten this down, which this is a, I believe, 15 millimeter. Yep, this is a 15 millimeter, so to stop that from shifting at all. We're going to tighten this down. And that's just the basic premise of it. It's not really that difficult. Preferably, I wouldn't want to use wood. I'd want to use something more like aluminum or steel, because your wood's going to rot out. This is just something very quick that I put together. That way I have a more functional sort of setup. Because I don't like the setup that I had, which is just two gigantic pieces of wood with a very similar, setup for the base of the rod holders, and it's just sitting in the back. And it made it really difficult for me to turn around and grab those rods because I had to extend so far and I was almost dropping the rods in the water. So what we're going to do here, like I said, make sure I have my base in the right direction. Put a couple of carriage bolts through. Small ones. Flip this over. And as you can see, I've already pre-drilled some holes for the washers to sit in. That way, they're not brushing up against anything and it just sits down in there. It probably also would not hurt to actually stain this wood or treat it somehow so it doesn't rot out, but that's not a concern of mine today. Like I said, I just want something functional to work. And because this is going to spin as I'm trying to tighten this up, what we're going to do, take my flathead screwdriver, and just tighten these down. Try to get this a little bit more level. It'd be nice to have something to be able to mount this to, that I can just hold it all under one spot and be able to do this. There we go. That way. There we go. They're not light by any means, but they're functional. I've already tested this one out myself out on the lake. It seemed to work really without any hiccups at all. They're not pretty, but like I said before, all I'm looking for is functionality on the entire thing. I don't need them to look amazing or like $1,000,000. I just need them to work. So if you guys want to redo up some rod holders and whatnot, you don't like your setups, or you have a Canoe or something like that, this is a quick idea of maybe something you can do. That, you know, if you don't feel like running on Amazon or somewhere else and buying a whole pile of new rod holes that you can bolt up to your canoe or to your boats, this is just a very quick way of doing it if you already have the parts of doing it. Other than that, I really wouldn't recommend running out and, you know, buying all these individual parts and whatnot. This is like $17. These are like $4 a piece. I forget what all these were running me when I bought them. But I have another rod holder that I haven't figured out how I'm going to do this with yet, because I don't honestly want to use 3 of these in the canoe. So we'll figure something out with that. But you know, hey, thanks for watching. If you guys like what you see, you know, give it a thumbs up. You know, subscribe. We're trying to put out new videos all the time. We're going to do a video here soon with me using these when I get a chance to get out in my canoe. And we'll give them a real test, because I have yet to get a fish on them. So we'll give them a real test and see how they work. Hopefully we'll get into a big flathead or a channel cat, or, you know, maybe a big pike and whatnot. Maybe in the future, if I decide to find some metal to do this with, I'll switch this up and do it a different way with metal. Maybe I'll just, you know, not be so cheap and go out and buy some real rod holders. But hey, thanks for watching.